evening, everyone. This is the Select Board Water Commissioner meeting for Monday, August 26th of 2024. Under old business, we need to approve changes and set hearing date for proposed town plan. New business, we have a highway department report, town administrator's report, approved minutes from August 12th meeting, approved road cut for Patrick Raymond on Duffy Hill Road, and signed payroll warrants, Steve Tremblay on Bedard Road on a road right away, I guess, or road cut, whatever. And is there anything else we need?
I don't think so. It's about, Steve called me in, he said he was gonna be here about, we had it on the agenda last time, but he has a right of way that he owns that he wants to sell to his neighbor, but he's not sure if he should sell it because he's got a private road and he wants to know if he sells the right of way, what's that gonna do with his road? In terms of, he just wants some guidance about the road standards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go with that. All right.
I don't know if Ryan has anything he wants to.
All right, got anything special you want on the agenda? Or?
I'm just trying to follow up on the questions I asked last time.
Okay. We got any more on that?
I have a few things that I can talk about, yeah.
All right. Well, start right out with the highway department report.
Introducing the new hires to the trucks and getting them used to driving around at no pressure atmosphere, hauling a few loads of stone back to the stockpile below the historical building there for springtime. The loads up at Lake Berkshire are like $112 a load, and the black stone we get from Swan Line, which is the cheapest product, is like $175 a load. So we're to stock few loads up this time of year, get those guys kind of introduced to the trucks and the roads around town.
Yep.
Because last week was kind of a rainy week, so we didn't have too much of a choice of options. And then this week, today I sprayed like 5 gallons of rusted timber on the frames and all the rusty spots in the trucks, and tomorrow I'm gonna paint them. And there's a road cut permit for Duffy Hill. I didn't want to sign off on it yet because it wasn't clearly marked. And there's a cross culvert right there. And I'm not really sure exactly, it wasn't marked at all, so the new owners were from North Carolina, so we're gonna wait, and I'm gonna get Norman. We left them a voicemail today, and haven't heard back from him yet, but it wasn't cut and dry, so before we kind of sign off on it, I'd rather have it.
Yeah.
It's on a back corner too. If that road ever gets paved, the traffic's gonna be picking up, 10 miles an hour probably, so we'll have to look at it further.
Okay. See, they got some weed whacking done around the guardrail.
Yeah, those guys did a bunch of that when I was on vacation.
Must be Steve Moe today.
Yeah, we got it started today. So
Yeah.
he has a couple days left to do in Enosburg, but he said that they want to wait until they graded a couple roads before he went out and did those. So he said he could get started. Seth and I talked about it, and we thought we'd just have him get started on the paved roads. We're not necessarily sure if the dirt roads need to be done again. We can leave that if you guys want. We can have him go ahead and mow everything again, but I told him to get started on the paved roads, and then there were a couple of the neighborhoods like Bedard Road and Sheldon Heights. He said it would be worth it to go all the way down there. We can have guys do that with a weed whacker if we need to have certain, 100 feet of it done. It's not, so.
Well, you know more about it than we do.
Yeah.
So just.
It's mostly not like tall weeds, like some in some summer spring, it's like they're just laid over grass, so yeah, if you could just do the pavement for now and probably call it a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so he got started today, and the last time, it took him just 86 days to do it, so. Yeah, I'm not sure if he can get it all done this week, but if he has to go back to Enosburg for a day, he'll come back.
It looked like there was quite a bit of cane around there.
Yeah.
It looked good, but he's done.
Yeah.
So,
I'll run into him here one of these days and, last weekend I graded Duffy and Cattell and Central and a few other roads we chlorided Bouchard there. So we're right on schedule with the chloride budget this year. It's almost gone, but there's enough to do, like one more mile or two
okay.
if need be.
Got a couple compliments on the Bouchard Road Bridge, by the way.
Yeah,
Some people that were happy with that.
yeah, we have a reclaimed bridge there.
Yeah.
There's a few intersections that's on our radar this week we're gonna trim out that are growing up with sumac and stuff, like happens every year.
Yeah.
And keep pecking away at the lawns and cemeteries. There's a tree, a good size maple that are half of it blew down on our farm where we haven't made it down there yet, so we'll do that this week as well.
Okay. Trucks are all set now.
Yeah, they're all inspected and
Yeah, it's just the one truck that hasn't been inspected.
Yeah.
That's due in
yeah,
the fall.
yeah, the new truck, yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah. The 350 went in for a tire alignment, tire rotation, or wheel alignment, tire rotation. There was a recall on the airbag sensor as well that they took care of.
Could we have Valancourts do all that, or we sent to? Oh, that was on the warranty.
Yeah, that was on the
Yeah, sorry. The other trucks we did at Valancourts, just to kind of get them some business since they came and helped us. out
Yeah.
with
They helped us
the
out.
regen there on
Yeah.
on the Western Star.
I think Hunter mentioned something about that truck with like an limp mode or something.
Yeah, it wouldn't pull out of the garage basically. I think it idled around too long when we were doing chloride and they didn't like it and it got plugged up basically. Past the point of that we kind of regen it ourselves. So we had to come in and put his laptop on it and force it to regen. It took like an hour and a half or so, but I haven't seen the bill on it yet, but I don't think it was too bad.
It was cheaper than having it flatbedded down to, which was the alternative.
So I started an account up there, the Valancourts on 105s. They do a little more techie stuff. And
I'm assuming that there should be enough of a warning on the vehicle itself to
yeah,
send something out so you can't.
yeah, I hasn't done it for, I don't know, back like 4 or 5 years ago. I used to do it during plowing season, leave it on the side of the road. And you'd have to regen. It would take like a half hour. But the last few winters, it hasn't really bothered up until just the summer.
They're running a little harder.
Yeah,
Usually when you're driving a little harder, they don't seem to bother.
exactly. But like I said, it was during chloride season. It was idle around for a few hours here and there.
We have, so on Wednesday, Seth and I are gonna go down Milton, the Vermont Local Roads is giving a training on pavement management. I thought that would be a good thing for us to go to.
Yep.
So that'll be a most of the day workshop. You know, I can help us with assessing, you know, what needs to be paved, and I'm sure they have different strategies, you know, crack sealing and all that stuff that some towns do. So that's one thing. And then I got Hunter signed up for a wastewater course for the fall, and I think that's all in the training situation. Oh, I'm gonna call the Agency of Agriculture offered to do a training for us for the chemical spray for the herbicide training. So I was just gonna wait and see if I could hear from any other towns if they were interested in doing that. It'd be, but the plan is to get all 3 of the guys on the crew to get trained with that, so that if we want to spray next year, any of them can do it. So.
Okay.
So I was just waiting to hear back from the other towns, see if anybody wanted to join in. But as far as I know, they'll train us and then they'll give us the tests started on those culverts on Cattell Road.
Yeah, culverts and shouldering, and once it does calm down, we'll probably spread some gravel on Duffy Hill, Colton, and Gilman.
You figure out how long they go, or?
Yeah, we're gonna, I talked to a few contractors and just get some prices and see what they have to say, if we don't feel like them.
Did you get a chance to scope out the salt shed?
A little bit, yeah, I did. It's in tough shape. That's about as far as I got. I did start to write up a proposal, but haven't gone anything farther than that.
Correct.
Yeah, I haven't, I've been meaning to, but I haven't called the environmental conservation to see if they're doing that grant program again this year. But if they did, it would be till December, so the grant won't begin until December, so then we wouldn't get the money until April if we got it, so. If they do the same program they did this year.
Alright, anything else?
Not at the moment.
Alright.
Is that?
Yeah, good night.
You, Steve?
But Steve's over there. Yeah.
Okay.
Right there. How's it going, guys?
Good, Jerry.
Pretty good.
So you got some questions on?
Well, you want me to kick it off, or
Yeah,
you want, I think you got.
I've just got the map of the property you got here. I don't know if you
Okay.
guys said,
Oh, you do.
if that's helpful.
They're coming in. Yeah, I'm going in.
So, I think.
So basically, this is all my land right here, right? That's the dark road, 105. Barry and Jody Jarvis, they live right there,
Yeah, this is the right way.
and there's a right of way right there.
You guys can come up.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Let's see what we're talking about.
So
Yeah.
basically, they're looking at potentially building a garage, and it just wouldn't work if there's a right of way there.
Okay.
And I'm willing to get rid of that right of way, as long as it makes sense with the town and the zoning or whatever it comes down to as far as the road requirements for this private drive right here. So basically before I was told that if any more than 3 houses go in there, then that road would have to be paved.
Actually, I spoke with Seth, actually.
Yeah.
He was just here, yeah, early, months ago. Said, Catalyst, you maintains the road, correct?
Difference.
But he had said that they don't need to. He did say that, but that's why we're having this meeting, just to
Right.
confirm it,
Cause
basically.
I just wanna make sure that that's not gonna be an issue and I get rid of that
If he was
right
to
of
give
way.
her, yeah.
See, the way it's written right now, the requirements are, it needs to be brought up to state standards. It used to be 876, that what it
Yeah.
still is, but,
I think.
okay, it has to be brought up to state standards.
Which was the 15-foot, I believe.
Yeah, I think it says in here with the,
But the town doesn't require you to pave it unless you want the town to take over the road.
Which I wouldn't.
Okay.
All the
so
neighbors have to
if the town, if you're considering having the town take over the road, we wouldn't even consider unless it was paved.
Right.
But in order to do anything there, it just has to be brought up to state standards. So that it's safe for emergency vehicles and
Sure.
stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You can't just have a little.
Well, big tandem dump trucks with excavators on them are going down.
Yeah, so that, you know, but that's the requirements of the town.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be paid.
Okay.
That was kind of a sticky point years ago
Yeah,
with the zoning and stuff that they all thought it, you know, anyway. So, but it doesn't have to be paid, but it does have to be brought up to state standards,
Okay.
Alright, so
which,
yeah, these are the state standards, and for assuming that you're gonna have less than 25 vehicles on that road, that's what ADT means in average daily traffic. If your speed is less than 25 miles, it's 25 miles an hour.
I don't even think
E-
you can go
No.
Right,
No, you
right,
can- it's
right,
5,
exactly, so this is the minimum.
Yeah.
The width of the lane, it has to have 2 lanes of 7 feet
Which
for each lane.
I think I was on the phone with you,
Yeah.
I walked
Yeah.
across and it was 15 feet.
Right. So, and I think it might be, they'll be a little bit wider than that if you, in the town standards, I think it says somewhere in here that the travel way should be 16 feet.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you
so-
know, because grass is growing.
Right, exactly. So, sounds like what you've got there.
this right of way was just an old right of way that
Is
was.
that right away to
So
build
I think
to?
it was very
I
old.
assume so, because
It
it
doesn't make any
basically goes, would be the continuance of our driveway. And
It
of course,
does
that map's not
yeah.
topographical, but like behind our house is like
Would that be right
so-
away, basically, if these lots,
It's
if you
those
didn't
two
own,
lots.
if you didn't own all 4 of these lots?
Yeah, it's
that would be
basically, that right of way is to
developed.
serve those 2 lots.
I have to check with zoning, but I don't think you could access a house lot or with a 25-foot right of way. I think it has to be 50.
I think there's a minimum of
So,
50 foot.
So that's that old, is what you're saying, and that it's just been overseen, and like,
It was that amount.
yeah, I was gonna say, you can tell, because it doesn't make sense with where our house is, and,
Well, when we bought the house, they were like, oh yeah, there's a right of way through here, and we just kind of shortened it. Like,
Yeah,
if you saw the property.
Until you know-
Do something with it.
Yeah, but now we're like, oh, we wanna build a garage, but it's like, oh, well,
yeah.
you can only go so close to that right of way.
It says, for private roads serving less than 4 lots, a right of way of a minimum of 50 feet will be required.
So what does that do at this point? Like, with that, does that just void everything, or how does that work with a right of way that's in a deed and everything? Do you know, or is that like a?
It still stays on the deed unless you have.
Yeah.
We can get
lawyers
that
write it.
amended.
But basically, yeah,
you
which
get
that's our
You
whole
can get the
point,
lawyers
right?
if everybody's willing to sign off on it.
But you're saying it would
you
have to be
can
50 feet, right?
Well,
In
to
order-
develop back.
Yeah,
But if he wants access to that back lot and he has a 25-foot right of way, he can drive a car or tractor or whatever.
But,
You know, it was probably put in there to get to a woodlot or something at one point.
yeah.
But, you know, that's up to you guys.
so I am willing to get rid of that
But,
for them to build a garage.
That's between you guys.
Now it's
That's
with the
nothing to do with
attorneys
town
and-
anyways.
Yeah, drawing it up.
But as far as the road access, it's just gotta be done up to the right standards.
Okay.
You know, if you're gonna put more development in there.
Yep, I don't plan on it,
So, yeah,
but I didn't want it to be
But,
an issue
right,
in
you
the
didn't want to
future
get-
if I did.
and yeah, no, I don't blame you.
$100,000 to pave the road.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I don't see any.
No, I don't see
any
That right
Nothing
of way
to-
goes to
do with the town.
Just
Pine
those.
Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it does,
I know.
yeah.
So you're the third house from the end?
We
Like
are
a cape?
One, yeah, we're the Cape House,
We're
yeah,
next to Delbert.
yeah, Delbert and Furnace.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be quite a chore to put a road through there.
Yeah, I don't even understand how you
It
do
doesn't
it.
make,
Yeah, it's pretty steep, it goes up the sandbank there and, I don't know, it'd be sketchy coming down.
I don't even know where we would park, right, because like I say, it's basically shown as a continuance of our driveway, so I mean,
Yeah.
our driveway, we just, you know, it kinda opens up and we just park our vehicles there, it's like,
maybe,
park them on the front lawn or something.
Yeah. yeah,
So it sounds like it shouldn't even be an issue.
It's nothing to do with the town, that's, you know, up to you guys, you know, if you wanna take it out of there, leave it in there, never do anything with it or whatever, but that's, as far as access that you have now going to them,
I have that road,
you have that road.
yeah, so now my house is here on that
Put a
lot.
development in there, it would be just a matter of making the road
Yeah.
state standards.
Which probably just comes down to Harley raking the thing and getting the grass
Yeah,
growing.
okay, get your width, and it states like you have to have a certain amount of base under it, so it, holds up the traffic and
Yeah.
stuff, but, that's just, that would be a requirement if you came in to the zoning or the development review board and said, I wanna put a development up there, I wanna build 3 more houses or something.
Sure.
That would be one of the requirements, that road was brought up to standards.
Okay.
And that they had access for a turnaround and emergency vehicles and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But that's nothing to do with us,
Okay.
the selectmen at all.
Well, I felt like I had to pass it through you guys.
Well, no, it's good to check and double check and,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, cause my attorney's telling me, don't get rid of that right away.
yeah.
And it's like, well, I kinda don't need it. And they wanna build the garage, so it's like,
And if
I
you're-
want you guys to move.
And if you're already on lot 6, and you're already access, right, that's where you're,
Lot
you said,
five.
you're on lot
Yeah.
5, so I mean, you,
Because the road's right, the
Yeah,
road's there, you know? So, yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much between you guys, which one to do.
Okay. Well, perfect. Sounds pretty easy. And then,
Oh, we need-
one more thing.
Yep.
I was completely unaware of this, until I saw one of these maps. Lot 3 right here that I have. I guess it's grandfathered in at 3/4 of an acre. And the whole time I've been getting charged 5.9 since I own the land. So there's like 1/4 of a point there that I don't know like where that is or where it would be. Because on the tax bill, it's 5.9. And with all the lots together, it's really 5.75. So I don't know if that's even an issue.
Well, I can have just,
Yeah, Lester
we
question.
should have just a look at that.
Okay.
Assessor.
Yeah.
We have an assessor that can look into that, I guess. I don't know if when they did the tax maps, if they messed something up there,
I don't
we'd have to look into that.
Yes, yeah.
That'd be a
Just stuff to dig into and ask
Justin,
questions.
Justin question
Yeah.
on her, so.
But other than that, that's it.
All right, that sounds good.
Well, good.
thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys.
Say thank you, Ray.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Well, she wants to get her drawing with her.
You can take that. You can
Well, you
take
can
it.
keep that.
Yeah, you can keep it.
I can print another one, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, so what do you have for questions, Brian? Let's see what we got.
Well, if I could go back to that. $389,000 on the budget part.
Okay.
That was one question.
So, my notes in there. So I just a moment here, Brian. Need a copy of that here. So what the audit says, again, to reiterate, the audit says that the revenues were over the estimated, by, 800 and some odd $1,000. And then it says that expenditures were over budget by 389,000 some odd. Okay, so there are, I appreciate that, yeah, it's not, super straightforward to read through this, budget, but there are a few reasons why as I go through this, why the revenue and the expenditure would be over. The first reason would be that we got some grants last year. There was a state of Vermont grant. So if you look in the expenditure, and under the expenditure in the town report on page 16, where it says SOB grants, we budgeted for $112,000 and we received $306,000. So that's almost a $200,000 difference between what was budgeted on the revenue side. There was also the fire department received a grant that was not budgeted for of almost $120,000. And the largest was that there was the school tax overpayment that we received from the state. We had anticipated $125,000 and we received $528,000. So that's over $400,000 more than we had anticipated. So I can't say that I got them all to add up to the same exact amount that the auditor came up with, because again, as we explained, the auditor has a different process for accounting for this than the town clerk does, but those sorts of revenues are where that difference comes from in terms of the difference between what was budgeted for and what was actually received. And then on the expenditure side, similarly, when we received grants for the fire truck and for the fire department and for the Heald Road culvert, for example, some other things like that, that also meant that they had to be matching funds for those things. So those are the categories in which expenditure was over budget as well. So for the fire department, the budget shows that we were $128,000 over budget on the fire department, for example. And on the highway maintenance, we were $260,000 over budget. But again, those are because we were matching grants that we had not anticipated. And there was expenditure made because we received a grant, and then we did a project that was not anticipated. And then the town clerk did account for the over budget for the school tax overpayment is accounted for down at the very bottom of the expenditures on page 24. There is a line. The other thing that's happening here is that because we are a calendar fiscal year, sometimes we receive money for 1 year for the year before in the current year and vice versa. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to account for that exactly. Certainly the treasurer could explain this, but on page 24, there is a line at the bottom for education refund received in 2023 of $270,000, give or take. So there's also some class 2 or 3 roads payments that we received in the year prior as well. So again, Brian, I can't really account for it, to the cent here exactly in terms of what the auditor found, but those are the categories in which we were given more funds than we received more funds in revenue, and because of grant projects and especially that money that we received back from the state above what we were anticipating. And then I believe that is all accounted for in terms of the expenditure, and in terms of the money that was spent on those grant projects, and then accounted for in terms of the education refund that is on page 24. So again, I can't give you those figures to the cent according to what the auditor said, but that is my explanation of why those happen. So it does not have to do with the ARPA funds as we were speculating last time. I think the ARPA funds were taken out of the general fund, were deposited they're in a separate account from the general fund, I believe. And they are accounted for in the audit separate from the general fund, but, the difference, I think, has to do with that education funding that we received back from the state tax refund that we received. There was also there were other things like current use that came in above what we had anticipated, and that, again, was, had to be accounted back to the year before as well. So, I'm sorry if that's not the clearest explanation, but I believe that those grants and the state, the school tax overpayment are what are gonna account for the differences in between what was budgeted for or anticipated in terms of revenue and what actually happened.
The school payment, I thought that was part of the hydro deal.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, probably that's
So-
their refund.
But
How come that money didn't come off our assessment this year?
Why? Because that has to be paid back to the hydro. That's money that, we're paying them back. Taking it off their tax bill.
so it's, tax appeal expense is on page 18, in the amount of $270,000, so. And so, there is a difference, again, there's a difference there between what we received and what we spent on it, I suppose, but,
Well, some of it's municipal tax.
right, exactly, some of it went to the school, right, yeah. So,
Do you
yeah,
have a total for the amount received for the year? And the expenses received for the year? Total?
do I have a total for the,
The receipt for today?
I do not, Brian, not right now, I do not, no.
Do you?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yes. I do.
And what is it?
2,610,000. 616,37. And the expenditures were 215, 729, 645. Does that leave 1,000,009 in the bank? According to this book, that's what we got.
Well, another thing that's a little tricky about this, Brian, is that in the tax accounting, under the revenues, I'm not, maybe this is affecting it, maybe it isn't, we don't budget for current taxes on page 15. So you'll see that there's nothing in the current taxes and then we received. It says there's nothing budgeted for because we never, so it looks like, for example, in total taxes, it looks like we're $1.6 million, in uncollected balance, but that's just because we don't budget for the taxes there in the account, so I'm not sure. I'm sorry if that's muddying the waters or not, but.
But on page 15, it says general fund checking, 1,974,000.
Correct, but then it says due to from other funds in the amount of 1.273. So, you're right.
Do we know where the 1.273 went?
Yeah, it's in the,
It can't be in the book because it's still in the checkbook. Because it hasn't been done. That's still due to others, so it has to be done this year. And this current year. If it's on this book, it's not been distributed yet. Am I correct?
I'm not sure about that, Brian. Again, these are questions we probably, if the treasurer would be able to answer. It's not exactly my role. I'm trying to account for the things that you asked about. I believe those are accounted for in this budget because I think most of the funds will have a line item that says due to from. So, for example, the water and sewer on page 25 has a due to from of $162,000, for example, just looking at it. So that's how it's accounted for. Whether that money was actually transferred into the water and sewer checking, I have no idea. But it's money that it's accounted for in our general finance, our global finances of the town. So whether it actually was paid into the water and sewer checking, I don't know. But the idea is that instead of having 6 checkbooks as we have had in the past and making sure each of those accounts has money in it, like right now, I believe the idea is that the town has money somewhere in its global finances that can flow into those accounts as needed. And it's accounted for in this way. Again, I'm not by any means a financial expert on how this works, but that is my understanding of how it works. Yeah.
Well, front of the book,
Yeah.
it says for year ending December 31st, 2023. So,
Right,
what
right.
are the numbers for December 31st?
Well, Brian, what I think we ought to have in the town report, which we've had in the past, is a separate treasury account that would do these sorts of calculations that you're talking about. And what we have here is a report that's generated through the software that the treasurer uses, which she understands, and I'm sure some other people do. I'm not sure if it makes it clear how to account for all the finances of the town. I understand the question you're asking, and I think this sort of thing used to be readily understandable in a treasurer's report, and what we have here is not quite what we've usually had traditionally in the town report, and I think we should have that. I agree. But I don't think there's been, I think that things are accounted for. I don't know that they're exactly clearly explained, and unfortunately, I'm a poor person to explain it. But
That'd probably be best served up by the treasurer, asking those questions to them.
But there were no totals on revenue received and no total for the expenditures. They always has been, but there was a total for the budget.
Again, that'd be a question for the treasurer, of how those numbers came about.
But you're the ones that okay all the expenditures, correct?
Yep.
Okay, them, but we don't run the checkbook, and we don't run the checking account. We just okay the expenses.
And if we had that question, we'd ask that person. I want to turn to Steve because he's not the one writing the checks.
And that's why we hired an outside audit, to make sure things were done right in the town.
But we have the outside audit, but nobody understands.
Well, they do. They're accountants, but we don't, I guess.
And the treasurer
Because
does.
I'm not an accountant, so I don't understand, if she gave me a treasurer's report, I'd have questions, but. So that's what it is, I guess if you wanna get down to the root of the problem, you need to speak to the treasurer, because we can't seem to come up with an answer for it.
Okay, that brings us to the next question. what's happening with by moving out of the town.
She lives in town. 1660 Main Street, Suite 9, Sheldon, Vermont. She's got a lease. 7-month lease, beginning August 15th and ending March 15th.
Say that again?
She has a lease on a room, Suite 9, next door, the Napoli home. The lease started on August 15th of 2024 and ends on March 15th, 2025. Her address is 1660 Main Street, Suite 9, Sheldon, Vermont. That problem's been solved.
I'll have to ask my other informant on it. Or check with him and see what he says.
Check with whatever you want. She gave us a copy of the written lease. That's all she needs is an address in town. She lives in town. Anything else?
What's happening with the streetlights?
So I did talk to the state of Vermont about that, and they would not have an issue with us going ahead and installing that. I have not inquired with Green Mountain Power about what the cost will be about that, but I intend to do that soon. So we'll have that information for you to review. Probably at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Move on. So that road cut stuff we're talking about, that's the one here?
That's correct,
Up the
yeah.
road line.
Yeah, so, it's as Seth said, there's a buyer who apparently lives out of state, so
Okay.
Norman St. Pierre applied for it for him, but we couldn't determine where exactly it's supposed to be, and I couldn't get a hold of Norman, so I put it on the agenda because
Yeah.
just because, but anyway, it'll have to be tabled until next time.
Okay. You got a report for us?
Yeah, sorry, I can get through it quickly, hopefully. So, I'm just throwing it up here. So, on August 13th, the day after our last meeting, I met with the planning commission, just to go over what was going on with the town plan. They would, if you're gonna make any changes to it, they'd just like to know what they are, so that, I think that they'll have a meeting between now and when the final hearing would be, so they can review that. I told them I didn't really anticipate any major changes, but I don't know if you guys keep your own counsel on that, so we'll find out. But I did note some factual things that I found in there, but nothing substantive. But anyway, so they would just like to be kept in the loop in terms of if anything changes. We're still, the Connecting Sheldon grant's probably the next thing that they'll be moving on to, but the NRPC is kind of waiting for the state to approve them for the project management side of it. I think we'd all like to see that happen. If we're gonna do a project on Mill Street, it would be a good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any way we can tie those two together?
Yeah, I will talk to Kyle as soon as I find out that he's been approved to, do the project management on that. I can make sure I, let him know that that's our concern. We'd like to try to do that all at the same time if we could.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I asked them to consider looking at their next meeting would be, in lieu of not having, police coverage at this time, if there was any, ideas about some of the more passive enforcement things we could do, whether it was radar signs, as Greg mentioned at one of the meetings, or something. I've had other input from other citizens about, improvements they think could be made to, either have slow down cars in the villages is mostly what people are concerned about, but, anyway, I didn't know, I thought the planning commission might be, a good place to have a discussion of those things.
Okay.
And I have some information about some grants that might be available for some of that, but probably nothing that could happen immediately unless, I suppose if there was something they thought they would recommend should happen immediately, I would bring it to you, but, anyway, so then, on the 19th, that was last Monday, the rail trail had a meeting here about the Sheldon Junction, project they have for building a trailhead there. So this was the final meeting, they had picked the alternative they want. I'm supposed to get material on that and put on the website, but they haven't sent it to me, but anyway, they've decided that the project, they want to build a trailhead and park facility right at the junction. The existing right-of-way that they have is, they had something designed to build it within the right-of-way they had, but they decided that they wanted something a little bigger. So the plan is to acquire about 7 to 8 tenths of an acre of land from Border Brothers and build a larger park there that would include a parking lot that would be able to facilitate trailers for snowmobilers or horses, I suppose. So that's one phase of it, is to build that trailhead facility that would have a pavilion and also portalet facilities. One issue that we will have, if this project goes forward, this was just a scoping thing, but if that goes forward, we'll have to have a conversation with the state about who's gonna maintain that facility. It seems like in certain places, the state does maintain those, but in many cases, they build things and then they expect the municipalities to take care of it. So, when that actually becomes closer to a reality, we'll have to have a conversation with them about that. The other thing they're gonna do is change the access to that trailhead. So right now, the trailhead is on the Severance Road side and the plan would be to move it so that the access would be off of Casino Road instead. So they'd be building a new road out to that junction from Casino Road, but they're planning to do it within the state's existing right-of-way. So they're gonna move the trail is gonna be shifted south somewhat in order to make space for the road.
Oh.
Yeah.
The road will stay on the other side.
Yeah, it'll be on the north side. So they're gonna have to move the trail. So there's sort of 3 things that are gonna happen. Building the actual facility, moving the trail on one side to create access, and then they're actually gonna move the trail on the other side too. The trail is gonna kinda end up where the parking lot is now, the existing parking lot is, so that will create more space for Border Brothers to move their trucks in and out, and then a fence will be put up so that, to keep the industrial facility separate from the light building. So, so they don't actually have a price on the land acquisition. That's the final plan that they've chosen of all their alternatives. They didn't have a price on the land acquisition, so that wasn't really contemplated, but their estimate for the trailhead facility park was 1.9 million or something like that, and then 1.3 million, excuse me, and then the trail moving would cost $900,000 apparently. So it's going to be quite an expensive thing, and they anticipate it would probably take at least 2 to 3 years to get the funding together to do that. But anyway, that's their plan. So they're going to have a final report out in September. I'm supposed to get the material put on the website to let people know about, and I can have. But anyway, that was their presentation. Again, it'll be, as I said, when this comes closer to reality, that I brought up some things that I thought the town would be concerned about besides the maintenance of the facility, but also if they're going to put this parking lot out there, whether there would be lighting and just for public safety out there. Creating a dark parking lot in the middle of nowhere might be cause for mischief. So.
Not visible.
Yeah, right, yeah, so, again, the conversations to have down the road, if that becomes a reality. So last Tuesday, there was a DRB meeting, that went on, well, it was nothing eventful there. It was a new development on, or sorry, a house going in on Cattell Road. We did have a dog, the vicious dog hearing last Tuesday. Either you want to see it, there's a copy of it in that blue folder, the decision we came to. And a letter was sent to the owner of the dog, notifying him of the decision. I attended a webinar that the National Highway Transportation Agency gave on rural road safety, but it was mostly a way to learn about some federal resources that we have. I'm not sure that we're gonna make a lot of use of them, but just to know more about, having a lot of good guidance on federal grant programs that are available, and also some resources in terms of, sharing different solutions from across the country in terms of how they dealt with. I mean, some of it was dealing with problems. We don't have any like divided highways in Sheldon, but some of them were a bit bigger projects than we had. But some of them were from smaller communities, like tribal communities, places that were 2,000 people or so, that were interesting. So anyway, as I mentioned, Seth and I are going to go to a training on Wednesday in Milton on pavement management. I've got Hunter signed up for the wastewater course. I believe at the next meeting we'll be able to do the 90-day review for Hunter's employment. The sheriff emailed regarding, he's got some governor's highway safety funds that he's looking to use on some police efforts on 105, I guess, and he's looking for input from towns about where we could use those resources. It wouldn't cost us anything. I talked to Senator Norris on election day, and he said that that police study panel had been convened, but he wasn't able to go to the first meeting, but they're gonna have a subsequent meeting September 5th. I had tried to talk to Jesse Woods, the zoning administrator in Enosburg, about that, but I wasn't able to get a hold of him. It sounds like last meeting I let you guys know that the sheriff had reached out about possibly doing some sort of regional model, but Bakersfield sort of sounded interested in that, and the village of Enosburg did, but the town kind of responded saying they weren't interested in talking about that. And well, what he had proposed was again far above what we had budgeted, so I'm not sure if that was going to be an option or not. But if all the towns aren't in on it, then I don't think it can happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't have any additional details on that, but I did note that we did receive as I mentioned to some of you, we did receive a bill for one week of policing in July that was done as we were still negotiating the contract. So I just figured I'd show you guys that, but I'll just direct the town clerk to pay that. Not thinking of anything. Oh, sorry. I filled out pre-application for, there's a mitigation grant available that includes some funding for emergency generators. So Hubert flagged that for me, so I have that started to apply for emergency generator for the sewer plant. I don't believe there's a match for that grant, so if we are successful, that'll be great, but if not, we'll just have to plan for it in the future. I did get a call today from the school. They had an issue with the generator that's installed down there, where the power went out, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, and they couldn't get it going, and I think we still have the key for that. Hubert brought the key down there, and then somebody broke the key off in the, down there, so there was sort of a comedy of errors going on, but it sort of brought up another dimension to the conversation we were already having about the school and our relationship with that property, because of course the town had that generator installed years ago because the school functioned as a emergency shelter, but I don't believe that we have been managing the maintenance of that generator since the school district merged, and it sounds like they haven't been doing the maintenance on it either, so sounds like that maintenance needs to be done since they've had this issue with it, but I suppose, again, this is another dimension of the what down there do we take care of and what down there do they take care of, and I'm not sure if we're gonna solve that issue tonight, but I was sort of inclined to tell him that, well, we haven't been doing it because we thought it's really serving the school more than we haven't used it as an emergency shelter. We haven't had reason to do that yet, and it's obviously the generator is being used and it's being used for the benefit of the school, so that really should be on the school's budget, you would think. Anyway, that's sort of the initial conversation I had with him about it, but I told him I would discuss it with you. And then we also touched briefly on the existing conversation about the changing the road down there and whether
They're still pursuing that.
right.
I'd like to see something happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing, but I said, well, I mentioned that the board was still sort of reviewing our relationship with that property down there, and whether the town's relationship with the property down there, and whether we might decide to have them handle that from now on. But anyway, that was the conversation pretty much. So, and I believe that's all I've got for you right at the moment.
Okay. Guess we can sign more.
Excuse me.
Alright, I'll read the minutes from the previous meeting. Select Board Water Commissioner meeting held here at the town office on August 12th, 2024. Attendance from the board is Stephen Dodd, Nicholas Norris, Richard Piazza, Greg Stebbins. Others here was Greta Brunswick from NRPC, Raymond Bushy from the Sheldon Fire Department, Brian Derry, Matthew Stebbins, Town Administrator, and Jerry Basie from Northwest Access TV. 7:35, I called the meeting to order and read the agenda. Additions to the agenda was Sheldon Fire Department, and then executive session to discuss personnel, and a request for a vicious dog hearing. 7:36, Greta Brunswick from Northwest Regional Planning Commission gave a presentation regarding the proposed town plan approved by the Town Planning Commission and the bylaw modernization study that they completed earlier this year. The proposed plan includes a new village zoning district for Sheldon Springs. The recommended zoning regulations for which are contained in the study report. The proposed district is designed to bring Sheldon into compliance with the HOME Act passed by the legislature in 2023. 8:10, Raymond Bushy from the Sheldon Fire Department presented a proposal to allow town employees, fire volunteers to respond to emergencies during their regular working hours while remaining on the clock. Employees would not be paid overtime while on a fire call. For the past year, there have been about 2.5 calls per month during the work day. Several other employers use this policy. The board discussed with Raymond situations that would arise, including winter plowing duties and long fire calls. The board thanked Raymond for his work on the proposal, which will be incorporated into an amendment to the personnel policy that Matt is currently drafting. 824, the board took up issue of a right-of-way near Bernard Road. Stephen Trombley was not in attendance as they anticipated, so Matt explained the issue. If Mr. Trombley sells a right-of-way that he owns, a private road he also owns will have more than 3 houses on it, and per zoning regulations will need to be brought up to town standards. He's concerned about the cost of improving the road and whether it would need to be paved. I said the road would need to be paved prior to being adopted as a town highway, but if it remains a private road, it would need only to be brought up to town highway standards, which are based on state guidance. Matt will relay this information to Mr. Trumbull. 831, the board took up the grand list errors and omission certificate submitted by Assessor Justin Mason. The certificate makes one change on the value of parcel PPT 00653 Missisquoi LLC from $2,100 to $1,221. This change of value is taken into account when calculating the proposed municipal tax and local agreement rates. Nick moved to approve this correction on the grand list and motion carried. Rick seconded it. Motion carried. 834, the board took up setting the 2024 municipal tax and local agreement rates. Based on the approved budget and grand list, the town clerk has calculated the proposed municipal tax rate of 0.5229 and local agreement rate of 0.0025. The state has set a homestead education tax rate of 1.4175 and a non-homestead education rate of 1.8417 for Sheldon. Citing the 2023 RHR Smith and Company audit report, Brian Derry stated that the town was over budget last year by $389,000. Asked if this was considered when calculating the tax rates. The rates were based on the approved budget and the grand list. The board discussed with Brian whether the audit figure he cited may be due to remaining ARPA fund money, as this money was received from the federal government rather than being raised by taxes. It cannot be used for general expenditures, only those specified. At 8:53, Greg made a motion and Nick seconded to set the municipal tax rate at 0.5229 and local agreement rate at 0.0025, and the motion carried. Matt will discuss the audit figures with the town clerk. 8:54, upon review of legal standards and animal control officer's report, the board granted the request for vicious dog hearing received from Charles Parent. At 8:56, I read the minutes from the July 22nd meeting. The board reviewed and signed payroll warrants and one fleet permit. Rick made a motion, seconded by Nick, moved to approve the minutes as read. The motion carried. 9:02, the board approved the road cut permit for Road Mahoney on the Town Road. 9:03, Matt gave his report as town administrator. The new hire on the road crew began work a week ago. Matt is now serving on the executive committee of Northwest Fiberworks. Roadside mowing will need a second cut, son. The town is mowing the Morville field, and as a contractor hired has apparently gone out of business. Sheriff Grismore emailed several towns, including Sheldon, regarding a regional policing proposal. 9:12, Brian raised the issue of whether the town clerk is now a non-resident and whether this would create a vacancy. The board will investigate the statute requirements. 9:16, Nick made a motion, seconded by Rick, to move into executive session to discuss personnel. exit executive session and adjourn the meeting. Motion carried. Board discussed personnel issues, including the fire department proposal. Take a motion to accept these minutes as read. Second on that.
Can I second it even though I was here?
I can second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Oh, one thing I realized I forgot, we received a letter from Northwest Access, that's right there, request for some funding. I called them and told them that that's probably something we would consider when, drafting the budget for next year, including an account, or, I said, they're asking to increase the amount above what they requested at town meeting last year, or, I said, we've already approved the budget for this year, so we can look at this in January when we're setting the budget again. They're on a July to July fiscal year, so,
Okay.
they said that's not an issue, they had the same discussion with Swan, so.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know about that, so.
Alright.
Yeah, I think that's all older stuff in there.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
alright. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
The town plan, we need to, so, I have some, factual corrections that I can make to it. I don't know if any of you have any other, substantive things, and then we need to set a date that we would like to have a there only needs to be one public hearing because we are, because of the population of our town.
Yeah.
And it needs to be held, or sorry, has to be at least 15 days from when if we make any changes to the plan, the hearing has to be held at least 15 days later. So, that of course means that it couldn't be at your next regularly scheduled, select board meeting, so we could just default to have it 2 meetings from now in the second meeting in September, or we could schedule a meeting on a separate date outside of the regularly scheduled select board meetings. That's your discretion. So I can go over the things that stood out to me as I was reading it. They're nothing serious, but just a few factual things that I saw. On page 12, there's a chart with some demographic information, which is sort of missing some of the population bands on it. So I didn't, if we could get it sort of the kind of population by age there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of missing half of the data, so I didn't know if we could get the rest of it put in there would be good. You see it as like age 10 to 14, but it doesn't have age 5 to 9, for example. It's not a big deal, but sort of. On page 15, there is some zoning and grand list data that we could probably update. I think it has like 2020, or I'm sure we could get the correct figures from last year if we wanted to. Page 17, I think it says the peak population of the town was in 1830 or something like that. I believe it actually was in, I'm not sure where they got those numbers from, but I believe the town peaked in 1850 at 1,814 people, but anyway, getting to the more substantial things. On page 19, the school land area should be 11.4 acres. And the school was built in 1975. Town garage should say it was built in 1958, I believe, and I'm not sure when the fire department days were added, but, And then I think it says it needs a new roof, I don't think that's correct. Anyway. On page 20, it should note that the community forest is owned by the school district, not by the, it is public land, but it's owned by the school district, not the town. And similarly, I think on the next page, it says that we should note that the recreational fields are part of the school parcel, not separate. On page 22, we don't currently have a police contract. I mean, I guess typically we would, but we don't right now. Page 24, it should be noted that the town maintains the Poor Farm Cemetery, even though it's privately owned. Probably more substantively on page 26, I believe it makes reference to there not being fire hydrants on the drinking water system, and that's incorrect. I guess I defer to Rick to tell me how many there are, but I know that there are some on there, so. On page 59, I think there's some information there on the grader, which I believe is a 1970 or 72, I can't remember what year the grader is, but anyway.
72,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and sorry, I said, I'm not sure if it's page 27 or 72, I might have wrote this wrong. There's a reference to a wastewater, there not being it should say that there is a wastewater ordinance governing how the sewer system can be built onto. And it says that there isn't one, but we recently found one, I think. And those are all the corrections I have that I found. But again, they're all kind of, some of them are more, the noting that there are hydrants on the spring, on the water line is important, and probably having the sewer noting that there is a wastewater ordinance is probably the most important ones.
Those numbers on the wastewater, though, those are correct? Gallon?
I believe they are. Does it say 54,000 gallons? Yeah, I think that's correct. And the usage obviously changes from time, but it says what, 27 or something?
20,000.
20,000. That's about right, I think. Yeah. So I have the sewer report in my desk. I believe that's correct.
So those changes, do you want to make it before we adopt it, or do you want to?
So I believe that if you want to make any changes to the town report as it's proposed there, you need to make it before at least 15 days before you have a final hearing. And then I suppose you can change it after the final hearing, but I don't know the process on that. If that means it'd have to be a subsequent hearing or not.
What if there was people that wanted to make changes at the final hearing?
Right.
I'm just,
Yeah, in theory, you would have to, well, the select board has the select board could decide to make those changes, and then I'm not, I should know the answer to that, but
I was just curious if that.
I think I think you'd have to have a second hearing if you made any other changes, but don't quote me on that. Just a moment, I've got a.
So you're talking having it the 23rd.
If you wanted to keep it on the current, the regular schedule for select board meetings, that's correct. Of course, you could just decide to add it on another day if you wanted, but we'd have to, either way, I have to write a warning for the hearing. I have to warn a hearing, but.
Okay.
I'm trying to make those adjustments now and plan for the meeting on the 23rd. That's fine, but just one person.
Looks good.
Should I?
I'll
I
make,
suppose you should make a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt the changes and then set the final hearing for September 23rd at our regular scheduled select board meeting.
Alright.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Alright, that's what we'll do. Anything else? We haven't covered?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Alright. Got a motion, have a second?
Second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright.